If you want to be able to buy the most expensive players and open the best packs in FC24, go to u7buy.com to buy your EA FC24 coins. It's cheaper than buying FC points and just as reliable. With their already amazing prices, you can get an extra 6% using promo code Inception at checkout. Hey guys, what's going on? Inception here, and welcome to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have the Patrick Vieira to check out. This card's price has gone down quite a bit, and I'm gonna be honest with you guys because I've actually tried them out for a little bit. There's cards, like, just hear me out, okay? When you use these cards in this game, when cards are good, they click right away. Like, you feel it, bro. You know, I'm telling you, it's like when people are like, how do you even know from the first game? No, bro, from the first game, like, I'm telling you guys, like, some cards you just use them and you're like, what am I using? You know, one of those cards this year for me was Karim Benzema's card, right? Karim Benzema, you can already tell right away. And you guys know it's because you try out the cards yourself. He has like certain base stuff that's just kind of like saucy, right? Just very, very saucy. Patrick Vieira is a card that we have to try out. When the first year of Foot Champs came out, I remember that they had a Patrick Vieira during that year. And I think it was like the year of the 4-1-2-1-2. And I used him as like a CDM. And in order for me to get top 100 in Foot Champs during that year that it first came out, I had to get both Ronaldo and Vieira in order for me to get that top 100. And I knew it because both of these cards were absolutely insane, right? With this Patrick Vieira, it looks like an interesting card. I will say that right off the bat, not having Intercept Plus, big downfall, okay? Intercept Plus in the CDM position for this game, in my opinion, very big deal. He does have the regular one, right? So he can still work with that. He has a regular press proven. He still has a few defensive stuff as well. He has block plus, bruiser plus, first touch plus, and anticipate plus. And then, you know, when you provide this card with a shadow chemistry style, you're going to be increasing his pace to be a controlled, lengthy player while working with better defensive stats, right? Physical is going to be in a pretty decent area. He is lacking in the jumping department, though, so that part of the card will be on the lower side. He actually can shoot the ball if given the opportunity to. Technically speaking, with a card like this, if you don't necessarily like playing him only as an actual CDM, which is kind of the main purpose of using him, then you could potentially use him in the right center mid position. Because in the right center mid position, if you have that specific area on stay back cover center or whatever, you would just play to his medium high work rates that could still potentially attack from time to time, right? Passing on the card, again, is in a pretty decent area for a midfielder. Dribbling for a midfielder, again, not a bad area for a medium high work rate player because he does have the regular press proven to kind of compensate for it as well. And then again, for physical, he's mainly lacking in jumping, but pretty good at everything else. Now, this SBC is one of those cheap SBCs that they're releasing for 100K. So we'll do the review for this card. I'm going to tell you guys this right now that I already know what he's like. And honestly, it was from 3 or 4 games because the comparison is going to be made to a specific card. And if you guys have watched the previous videos, you know which specific card I'm going to be comparing him to, because I think he's honestly probably the only medium high, apart from specific cards potentially getting evolutions to make them better. It's the only card that as a medium high is like good to use, right? Because a lot of the pro players, they'll usually use like the high work rated cards down the middle. But with Patrick Vieira, it is going to be the medium high player that we're going to be trying out, right? So with this card, we'll be using him in the 4-3-1-2 that we recently reviewed. He'll be played right down the middle. We will see how he plays. Hopefully he's a beast. Okay, guys, so we're just going to go ahead and show some of the basic highlights that we got from the card. It was funny because I think I just showed the team there. I think Alvarez was actually in that squad because I'm probably going to mention this in the outro as well. But basically, it's just a couple of clips showcasing the way that the card is positioned on the pitch. Honestly, his defensive positioning is actually not the issue with the card. I think his positioning is actually very, very solid on a pretty consistent basis, right? I felt like from the games that I played him in, the Anticipate Plus was like the main thing to work with, right? Like with Bruiser and stuff, you guys need to understand that I don't have the advanced defending on. So the way that it usually works, and it sometimes won't activate on the screen, is if you press the tackle button, right, they will choose to aggressively push up against the guy. So that's how I got most of my defensive animations. Advanced defending has been kind of annoying to use recently because, you know, defending is a little cooked. But yeah, this is just showcasing some of the positioning stuff, right? So again, this guy's attacking through the side position. Patrick Vieira starts to move into the middle. Positioning wise, he does a good job of cutting out that passing opportunity, right? And in turn, this does create a nice little play for us here with the elastico from Pele into the power shot, and we end up scoring that opportunity, right? So a big part of the CDMs is obviously being able to receive the ball, but then actually transition forward on the attack and allow you to score opportunities. So again, positioning wise, you could see in that area there that, you know, working with the regular intercept was still pretty helpful. You could definitely tell that in order for him to be juiced in the game, he would have needed at least like 2 more upgrades. Not even 1. I think 2 more upgrades would have definitely been kind of crazy for him in particular. But yeah, we do win possession of the ball there. Again, with Alvarez, that's when we got our left-footed strike, and we did score that opportunity. We lose possession of the ball here. I aggressively push up with Patrick Vieira. Don't get possession of the ball. It's obviously pretty far from him, right? But this is just like general build-up play stuff to see how he kind of like generally positions himself to make the passes to other people, right? And stuff like this is always an underappreciated thing, right? Like your players do always need to be positioned to provide that support to allow you to attack a certain way, because if he's not positioned there, then obviously I can't make that pass into the middle and go from there, right? So another situation here, right, where we lose possession of the ball. This is the tracking situation, right? So whenever I do lose possession of the ball, the way that he goes back into the middle to block out those opportunities is pretty good. This one is always the most important one, is when you get into the edge of the 18-yard box and whether or not they actually do stuff here, which in his case, he does do a tackle animation that throws him off, but with a little bit of emphasis on the ball for sure. Definitely wasn't perfect in that area. There, I tried to overcommit him into making a specific challenge in a specific area, but obviously didn't get possession of the ball. Here, I'm just positioning him myself so that if he does make a pass in certain areas, his interceptions kind of like just come off for me to get those sort of situations, right? So over here, we do a nice little pass off here, waiting for a couple of spaces to open up. Again, just showcasing the general build-up play with how he kind of positions himself to help me out over here, right? So positions himself well in the middle to kind of like pass the ball in the middle and try to work that space. Again, defensive AI stuff here. He makes that run there, and he's always generally, you know, positioned in the middle. What you're going to notice a lot with this card actually is that if I overcommit my center back in certain situations, he will actually occupy the position of the center back pretty nicely, right? So you'll see in some situations, it might be in the future highlights, where when I commit the center back a little bit too much, he kind of blocks out that area pretty well. That specific cross, that's just people trying to go for the far post cross, and this is why it's very important to work with the aerial plus in the meta of this game, because if you don't have that play style in the fullback position, which is why the pro players use players that are not even fullbacks in that position, then you won't be able to block it out, right? So this is just showcasing some of his passing abilities and some of those situations from the lob passes. Obviously, still does a pretty solid job at that. Lob passes is a pretty big meta to work with, right? It's a big reason why I like the Toni Kroos card so much. There's many reasons why I like that card so much, but those are just like a few of the things, right? So over here, that's just a deflection. Couldn't go ahead of the ball there with Patrick Vieira to score that opportunity. The footies Holland kind of gets in the way there. Again, positioning wise, does position himself pretty nicely, cuts out the certain players on the attack nicely as well. But yeah, for the most part, you could see from these games, you're just not noticing as much of a presence as like Toni Kroos. I'm telling you guys, like that card's crazy. This is an example of the cross, right, to the far post. When you have aerial plus, you can deal with that a little bit better, but you also have to use like the double tap triangle to deal with it too. But yeah, applying a little bit of pressure, get the tackle off, get the pass off, but nothing comes from that. Okay, guys, so final verdict on the Patrick Vieira card. So I'll basically just essentially give you guys a long form short. These cards, I feel like they release to the general audience that are just kind of like just getting into the game. Oh, they need a medium high. They need someone that gives them the links in the squad, you know, stuff like that. But I think that with medium high midfielders in this year's game, there are very few, in my opinion, that actually perform very, very, very well, right? Patrick Vieira, it makes sense for them to release this card. It's like they watch the content and they listen to the specific players that I mention all the time, because for many videos I've already said many times that Patrick Vieira does not scratch the surface of Toni Kroos, right? And it's not even a matter of not being able to scratch a surface, but still playing well to the value that you're at. Like, obviously, you could see positioning wise, working with the anticipates is always nice to work with. But I'm going to tell you guys this right now, that the main play style that he needed was an intercept plus. I'm going to give you guys a personal experience for me, because when I was using the card, you'll actually see me using him with Alvarez when I was doing that review, okay? It was on my boy Guillau's account, and Guillaume, I don't think has Toni Kroos because he goes with the Premier League player, so he chose Steven Gerrard over Toni Kroos. In my opinion, during the reviews of both of those cards, Steven Gerrard was obviously still a very nice player, but I didn't think he was as important as Toni Kroos, right? So you guys know I was really big on that card, and still am. That card is being used on a consistent basis. Like, I don't think there's a single medium high that touches Toni Kroos. That's just not the case. The lack of intercept plus is a big one. After those few games that I used Patrick Vieira in, I actually switched him out for Declan Rice because I felt like I lacked in that presence in the midfield. You know what I'm saying? Because, again, this is coming from someone that has been consistently using Toni Kroos, and I'm like, I already know that Patrick Vieira is not that guy, right? And honestly, if I were to have reviewed him during that time period too, I think Toni Kroos was probably released around that time period as well, because these cards are the ones that get upgraded. I think what actually happened is, if I remember correctly, is I think these guys get upgraded, right? Like I said earlier. If he got upgraded more, right? If he got upgraded more, and then I can give him like maybe like an anchor or something, or whatever it is that they wanted, because sometimes when they give the specific stat boost, they're like really, really boosting the cards. If I was able to provide that with him, if he got more upgrades, then sure, he could probably be like a very, very good CDM. But I think because he didn't get those upgrades, it's kind of like a whatever CDM. Like, in my honest opinion, like, I'm telling you guys, this game is like very, very meta nowadays. It's not, it's going worse and worse in that direction for meta, right? Like, just for you to do basic things. And I'm telling you guys, like, once you use someone like Toni Kroos, it's very, very hard to use other cards. Like, I use this Patrick Vieira, and as I said, after 3 games, I was like, I can feel the lack of a presence in the midfield at this point in the game. And I was switching him with Declan Rice, and I'm like, none of these two are cutting it for me. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, these types of SBCs, they're releasing just for people to be able to unlock him, because they're squad building right now at the end of the game. You know, some people are just getting into it because it's probably like super cheap or free or whatever it is. But yeah, you guys, as I've mentioned many, many times during this review, I just, this card doesn't come close to Toni Kroos. It just doesn't, right? And once you get to that point for a card that was an objective card, so it was an attainable card for people, it's kind of cooked, right? So the content that EA is doing this year is incredibly cringe. I've actually been looking into the content that they were releasing last year compared to this year, and the types of SBCs that they were dropping, and this is an absolute joke in my opinion. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video today. I'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace out, dudes. We're just going to survive until the new game comes out at this point, because the content that they're releasing is garbage.